it gets really interesting. Go to the doctor and they, patient presents, they determine something's wrong. Hyperthyroidism. Huh, what? Oh, hyper. Okay. The hypo, they can say hypothyroidism. You can have hypercholesterolemia. Okay? Some of the terms you see might be this long. All right? You see that term and you're looking at the piece of paper and you're going, well, what? All right? One of the best things to do, take the term apart. Because in the medical field, each part that you take apart tells us something, okay? Because we'll have a root word, like thyroid, for example, and we can have vowels that can join the words together. We could have a prefix to it, such as hyper, hypo, and then we could have an ending. It could be ism, it could be other terms that might let us know that it's just referring to a part of the body, or it could be referring to the pathology of that part of the body, okay? So for example, let's look at the appendix, all right? Not the appendix of a book, all right? Any idea where the appendix is in humans? Is that finger? You're thinking of the index finger, okay? Anybody in here ever had to have it removed? You did have it removed? Okay. Did they just do it by laparoscope? Or they just,
it was in the 99.
did you have like a cut or a scar?
Yeah,
Oh, okay, so they might have cut rather than doing the laparoscope. Okay. It is part of the large intestine, little piece that hangs off. It's vestigial, meaning it's left over. It used to be that they didn't think it did a lot for us, but what we now know is it does play a part in our immune system. But things can go wrong, it can get inflamed, it cannot be a really pretty sight, and they might have to remove it. Well, if we think about appendix, okay, that's letting us know what it is. If we need to make it more than one, okay, we took the X away, did the C, you guys remember that from English? Okay, and then ES. So in terminology for anatomy and physiology, some of the terms are going to seem weird, all right? And good example, thorax, all right? And then we look at it and thoraces. I mean, that really sounds kind of weird. But the cool thing about the terms, you're going to get used to them, okay? The hyper, the hypo, the isms, you're going to get very familiar, all right? So if we begin to look at regions, because a lot of times, all right, let's say patient A presents. Patient A presents and they're going, my stomach hurts. You know, and they've got their hand right here. Is that where your stomach is?
No.
No. Okay? So you might see, or you would want to write down, okay? Because as you, let's say you're in the ER and the person presents, and this is what they're doing, okay? They're saying, my stomach hurts. Well, you would want to be able to put down, patient complains of right upper quadrant pain, RUQ, okay? So this would be a region of the body. And as we move forward, you'll understand by that person doing that, that could be a couple of things to start checking out to determine what's wrong. So we have our regions of the body. Now we got quite a few, okay? We end up having our large portion, okay? Upper limb, lower limb, trunk of the body, neck, head. But each of those get broken down into smaller regions. So if we look, for example, at the upper limb, we break it into, and we got the common name, we've got the official term, clavicular, axillary, brachial, antecubital, antebrachial, carpal, palmar, digital. Whew. You will see those terms. You will see those terms. But it's interesting that you brought up index and thinking of the finger, okay? Because as y'all know from Monday, I recently had my hand surgery. And have you ever heard of trigger finger? Okay. So I had and they had to do 3 fingers on this hand, all right? And you know how now, like when you go to have surgery, you and the doctor have to initial where surgery's going to be done. Everybody you encounter is asking you, what kind of surgery are you having? What are they doing? All this sort of stuff. And I found it interesting that they would go, okay, what are you having done? And I'm sitting here giving them medical terms. And they're going, oh, so you're doing the index, middle, and ring. I was like, yeah, index, middle, and ring. So, I was like, was not expecting that. But I guess that was a little bit easier just in general to keep it with the terms we're familiar with. So, one of the things that comes along, not only do we have to understand body position, body direction, we need to be familiar with body regions. Okay? So any questions so far about the body parts and regions? It's not something that we can just stand up here and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and understand it. I wish it could be that easy, but it's really something you just have to begin to look over, read them, and understand. Okay? Because you'll see them. All right? So we take the abdomen region, we put it into quadrants, quad, 4, and then those have their regions. Their regions are based pretty much upon what is occurring in that area. Like, for example, epigastric, that's familiar with being the stomach. Okay? So, another part that you'll see, most of the time, this will be very familiar when you're looking at slides of something, the histology, because that's just as important as understanding the body areas. Because if a sample of something has to be taken, all right, we need to know where. Okay, we need to know which direction and so forth. So body planes, this is letting us know the divisions that occur, and we have a median, which is straight down through the middle, sagittal, but that would be to the left or to the right, frontal, this way, coronal, this way, transverse gives us an superior and inferior, oblique is like at an angle. So if you're looking at slides, for example, you may see that it said this is an oblique cut. And whatever that tissue is you're looking at, like say they sampled the liver, it's an oblique cut that they took. Okay? So that's a lot of what you'll see on slides. This is a good example of if they take a sample and they cut straight through it or down through it. Letting you know what part of that organ you might be looking at. Body cavities. Now, this will continue to show up as we move forward in part 2. Body cavities become important. We have the diaphragm, and that's like the division between our thoracic cavity and the abdominopelvic. And in some cases, you might see abdominal and then pelvic. Okay? Abdominopelvic just is simply listing the entire cavity that exists. And the reason for it being cavity is because of the tissues enclosing it. Okay? The enclosure of that particular cavity. The cavities that we have can have membranes. Organs have membranes. And these membranes, they're actually very important. Now, once again, because we'll get more into organs in part 2, but that doesn't mean we're not going to encounter membranes with the rest of the parts we're going to study in part 1. So, a membrane is a wrapping around. For the most part, they are more than one piece, so to speak. The example that they're giving is taking an organ of the body. For example, the heart. The heart, like they're trying to show with the fist, and then a balloon. If you have a balloon, you put your fist down in it, the part of the balloon that is encountering your skin of your fist, that balloon is right next to it. It's no space, okay? But then the rest of the balloon is just round. There is a reason for this. In the organs of the body, the part of the membrane that will be in direct contact with any type of groove or crevice or projection or whatever might be of that organ, there's a membrane around it. Then you've got the outer membrane, and usually in the middle is a fluid. The reason for that, the heart, for example, it beats all the time. Because if it's not beating, you're dead. Okay? That is a ton of work.